Discover the incredible journey, how a punished widow became a cowboy's life-changing treasure. Clara stood at the edge of her family farm, the sun casting long shadows across the golden fields. The memories of laughter and love echoed through the now silent land, reminders of warm summer evenings spent with her husband, a decorated war veteran. Just months ago, they had shared their dreams under the wide Montana sky. Now, she stood alone, branded a punished widow by the folks in town, a label that cut deeper than any knife. The whispers followed her like a cold wind, leaving her feeling isolated and judged. That it was a summer afternoon when the local fair rolled into town, buzzing with life and nostalgia. The heartbeat of the community thumped loudly against her chest, urging her to attend. As she stepped through the gates, the aroma of fresh pies and the laughter of children filled the air. But the judgmental glances pierced her heart. Clara clenched her fists, swallowing the bitter taste of grief, and then she saw him. Jake, a rugged cowboy with a soulful gaze. He was known for his unwavering honesty, yet like her, he carried burdens that etched deep lines across his face. Their eyes met, and Clara felt a spark, igniting something inside her that she thought had died with her husband. They found solace in conversations, sharing their pain. It was as if they spoke a language only they could understand. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each sunset, Clara grew stronger. She rolled up her sleeves and poured her energy into the farm, tilling the land that once felt like a tomb. As she nurtured the crops, she found moments of joy and hope. The tiny shoots breaking through the earth mirrored her own resilience. Yet, as whispers of her friendship with Jake turned to suspicion and scandal, Clara faced a tidal wave of doubt. The very people who once turned away now gathered to talk, their voices dripping with scorn. And then, her estranged family arrived, unexpected and uninvited. Years of hurt surged to the surface, anger mingling with love as they confronted her. Clara's heart raced, standing in the eye of this storm, but she was no longer the woman who crumbled under pressure. This time, she faced them with the strength forged through hardship and hope. The silent understanding she found with Jake buoying her spirit, the weight of community judgment pressed against her like a heavy blanket, but deep down, she felt an undeniable shift. Could she claim her place among them? Could love bloom in the midst of 1,000 eyes watching? As the air thickened with tension and the world stood still, Clara stood firm, ready to reclaim her life. Unsure of the path ahead, a single truth echoed in her heart: she would not let the chains of her past define her future. Would she rise from the ashes of her heartbreak, or would she once again be swept away by the currents of doubt? Clara took a deep breath, steadying herself for the confrontation ahead. The voices of her family faded into the background, overshadowed by the thud of her own heartbeat. She felt the weight of the world pushing down on her, yet a spark flickered inside her, urging her to push back. "What do you want?" she finally asked, her voice steady, surprising even herself. There, in front of her, stood the faces she had longed for and yet feared: her brother Jacob, with his arms crossed tightly, her sister Anna, teary-eyed, and her mother, who looked as if she hadn't slept for days. Clara's fingers tightened around the railing of the porch, grounding her in the moment. Clara Jacob's voice was thick with resentment. "You've turned your back on us. On what family means." "Family?" Clara let out a scoff, tinged with disbelief. "You haven't been here for me. Not when I needed you most." She felt a wave of anger swell in her chest, but it wasn't just anger, it was a surge of power. "Do you think we wanted this?" Anna interjected, her voice breaking. "We lost him too. We lost you. We thought you could talk to us. Ask for help." The sting of accusation hit Clara hard, and regret washed over her. Had she really isolated herself? But she also felt the defense rising within her. I didn't ask for any of this. I'm trying to survive here on my own. By clinging to a cowboy? Jacob shot back, his voice rising. The heat of community judgment flared anew. You think people want to talk? They see you two together, and it's not just friendship. Clara's heart raced, the satisfaction and warmth she found in Jake's company suddenly tainted by the harsh reality of the town's perceptions. But as her mind swirled with conflicting emotions, a voice inside her made itself heard, one that cherished the connection she had developed. Jake understands me. She shouted, her voice trembling with unresolved hurt. He's been through hell, just like I have. You wouldn't understand. The group fell silent, and Clara could see the flashes of realization in her family's eyes. Perhaps they were scared too, scared to see her moving forward and leaving them behind. But, at that moment, she felt divided between the burden of their expectations and the freedom she craved. I want to apologize for finding someone who sees me, Clara continued, her chest rising with determination. If you want to come back into my life, be supportive. Or stay away. I have enough to handle as it is. Her mother stepped closer, reaching out a trembling hand. Clara, no. Clara backed away, shaking her head. You just want to protect me, not from my hurt, but from my happiness. I can't live like that any longer. Taking another deep breath, Clara pivoted, feeling lighter, more liberated than she had in months. She had spoken her truth, facing the storm of emotions head-on. Steeling herself, she walked past them, aiming towards the fields bathed in golden light. As she neared the crops, a figure emerged from the shadows. Jake stood at the edge, leaning against the fence, his expression a mixture of concern and admiration. You okay? He asked softly. Clara met his gaze, her glance steady and resolute. This was the man who had come to know her heart. I am now. But before they could exchange more, the air crackled with unresolved tension. From the corner of her eye, Clara noticed movement, a dark figure approaching them rapidly. Her heart sank as she recognized the silhouette coming toward them, fists clenched and filled with fury. Clara. It was one of the town's more volatile residents, anger radiating from his body like waves of heat. You think you can just flaunt your scandal and not face the consequences? Clara felt her pulse quicken. This was the moment she'd been dreading. What would he say? How would the rest of the town react? As Jake moved in close to her side, Clara could feel the whirlwind of emotions surrounding them both. Stake her claim or stand frozen in fear. The choice stood before her, trembling in the evening air. Would she face the challenge ahead, or would she retreat into the shadows, once again defined by the chains of her past? Clara squared her shoulders as the angry figure approached, his shadow stretching ominously over the golden fields. The familiar face of Tom Blake, known for his sharp tongue and shorter fuse, lit up with a furious energy that threatened to engulf everything in view. Clara! He shouted again, taking long strides towards her, with Jake firm at her side. You're bringing shame to this town, to his memory. You think it's okay to just move on? Clara's heart raced. She felt Jake's presence strong and protective, but this was her battle. A deep breath steadied her, grounding her swirling thoughts. Tom, I'm not ashamed of living my life. He sneered, the contempt clear in his voice. Living? Looks like you're running away from the pain instead of facing it. You think people don't talk? You're on the gossip train, and it's heading straight to hell. What do you know about my pain? Clara snapped back, fury bubbling up. You don't know what it's like to drown in grief just because you think you know someone. Exactly. Tom's hands punctuated his words. You're dragging the memory of him through the mud, with this cowboy. Clara's chest tightened, but she refused to back down. Jake is not the problem here, Tom. He's been there for me when no one else was. I'm tired of people thinking they know what's best for me. You don't even know what I've gone through. The townsfolk had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. Clara could feel their gazes pricking at her skin, heavy with judgment. She caught glimpses of her family in the crowd: Jacob's scowl, Anna's concerned expression, their mother's mouth a thin line. "Is that true, Jake?" Tom challenged, glaring at him. "Are you really a safe choice for her, or just another distraction?" Clara turned to Jake, searching his eyes for the answer she hoped not to find. There was strength in the way he stood, a quiet confidence that she had begun to admire. "They don't get it," she whispered softly. "Let them talk," he replied gently, his voice steady and unwavering. "We know what we have." But the cold gaze of Tom bore down on Clara. "You're a widow. You owe it to your husband to grieve." "Stop," Clara interrupted, her voice rising with authority. "I don't owe anyone anything. I am not bound by your expectations. I loved him and lost him, but I refuse to be a ghost of what this town thinks I should be. Grieving is personal. It's not a one-size-fits-all process." A murmur rippled through the gathering crowd, a mix of surprise and support. Clara felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they were starting to see her for who she really was. Tom sneered but took a step back. "You think you're brave, don't you? Just wait until you realize how wrong you are. We'll still be here when you hit rock bottom." With that, he turned and stormed off into the distance, the energy dissipating as quickly as it had arrived. Silence hung thick for a moment before some voices began to murmur in hushed tones. Clara's heart raced, a mix of relief and adrenaline flooding through her. It felt as if she had torn down a wall, but the rubble still lay scattered around her. "Did you hear that?" Anna broke through, stepping forward. "You stood up to him." "I couldn't let him define me," Clara said, still catching her breath. The eyes of the crowd shifted slightly, veering from judgment to something resembling understanding. Jake stepped closer, taking her hand in his. "You did amazing, Clara. I'm proud of you." As she looked around, faces softened. There was no denying the tension had shifted. But a new challenge loomed above them like a storm cloud, waiting to spill its secrets. How will they react in the days to come? Clara wondered, glancing at Jake. What if this only makes it worse? Amid the questions, she realized one truth: she was ready to face whatever came next. What lay ahead was uncertain, but she wouldn't walk the path alone. As the sun dipped lower, casting an orange glow across the fields, Clara felt that spark reignite within her. She wasn't backing down, she was just getting started. But just then, the ominous silence shattered as someone from the crowd yelled, "You're nothing without your husband." Clara froze, her heart plummeting as she registered the weight behind those words. Would she find the strength to rise again? Would she be nothing, or was this just the beginning of claiming her identity? Clara's breath caught in her throat as the words hung in the air like a storm cloud. The heat of the day seemed to drain away, leaving behind a chill that crept along her spine. The crowd shifted, whispers rippling through like leaves rustling in a sudden wind. Bile rose in her throat at the thought of being reduced to the memory of her late husband. She had spent months wrapped in her grief, haunted by shadows that whispered doubts into her heart. But now, she stood at a crossroads, and while Tom's words stung, they also ignited a fire within her. With her heart pounding, Clara turned to face the crowd. "I am more than a widow. I love my husband, yes, but I will not let his memory suffocate me. I am not a reflection of my past, I am the architect of my future." The murmurs intensified, some encouraging, others critical. But the energy had shifted again. Clara felt the heat of confidence seep into her bones. It didn't matter that Tom intended to diminish her. She would not be defined by his opinions or anyone else's. Anna stepped forward, her face a portrait of pride and concern. "Clara, you're strong, but you need to remember this town, it can be relentless." "I know. But I have to do this," Clara replied, her voice steady. She looked at Jake, who squeezed her hand tighter, his blue eyes reflecting an unwavering support. In that moment, she realized it wasn't just about survival, it was about living fully a truth she couldn't ignore anymore. She turned back to the gathering crowd. I loved him in life, and I'll love him in my memory. But that doesn't mean I can't find happiness again. I owe it to myself. I owe it to him. Is it too much to ask for understanding in return? A few faces softened. She could see recognition flickering in their eyes. The town had always valued loyalty, yet it felt as if they were slowly starting to see her as more than a symbol of grief. Jake's voice broke through her thoughts. Clara, let us take a walk, he suggested gently, knowing the words might help her calm the storm within. The two stepped away from the crowd, moving towards the far edge of the fields, where the sounds of their town faded into the background, replaced by the soft rustle of the wind through the tall grass. Do you really think they'll ever accept us? She asked, glancing up at him, her heart still racing. Jake shrugged, but there was a lightness in his tone. Maybe, maybe not. What matters is how you see yourself. You've got to keep pushing forward. The people who love you will be by your side. Clara stopped and looked out across the horizon, where the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. And what if I fall, Jake? What if I can't find the strength again? He turned her to face him, his expression unwavering. Then you get back up. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just take it one day at a time. I'll be right here, beside you. Clara felt warmth pool in her chest at his words. The uncertainty was still there, lurking just below the surface, but she took a deep breath anyway. She could see her path beginning to widen, a glimmer of light breaking through the shadows, but as they stood there, taking in the fading beauty of the sunset, a figure appeared on the horizon. It was getting closer, an unsteady walk that sent Clara's heart into a panic. She squinted to see better, and when she realized who it was, she felt her breath hitch, fear and disbelief swirling together. Could this person really be back? The air around her shivered with the kind of tension that signaled a major shift. What would it mean for her newfound resolve? Jake, she whispered, her heart racing anew. You won't believe who it is. Clara's heart raced as the figure drew closer, each step sending a bolt of anxiety coursing through her veins. The fading light of the sun turned the silhouette into a shadowy puzzle. A familiar shape, but wrapped in layers of uncertainty. Was it really him? After all this time? As the figure neared, the panic crystallized into disbelief. It was Mark, her late husband's brother, a man she hadn't seen since the funeral. The very presence of him felt like a ghost rising from the grave, shadows of memories surfacing uninvited. Clara, he called out, his voice unsteady, almost cracked. It's been too long. Her instincts screamed at her to turn away, to shield herself from the weight of old wounds. But instead, she stood frozen, unable to look anywhere but at him, the face that once shared her laughter, but also her grief. What could he possibly want after all this time? Jake stepped protectively closer, his grip tightening around Clara's hand. Are you okay? He asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Clara didn't respond. All her feelings blurred together as she took a cautious step forward. What are you doing here, Mark? She finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark's eyes searched her face, desperately trying to bridge the chasm that had grown between them. I came to see you to talk. There's so much we need to sort out. His words hung heavy in the air, laced with both sincerity and sorrow. Sort out? Clara echoed, hurt leaching into her tone. Sort out what? You left. You chose to disappear when I needed you the most. I know, Mark said, a choked sob catching in his throat. I was lost in my own grief. I thought distancing myself would help. But it didn't. I realized too late how much you needed support, how much I needed you. Clara's heart waged war against her thoughts. Could she really listen to him? The anger surged within her at the memories of shared silence, the loneliness that had crept into her life after losing both her husband and now Mark's absence. She wanted to scream, to shake him out of his stupor, to remind him how deep her wounds were. But as she looked into his tear-filled eyes, a flicker of understanding crossed her mind. "I thought you would be my rock, just like Tom," she said quietly. "Instead, I felt abandoned." "I'm here now," he insisted, taking a tentative step forward. "I want to help you find peace. I know it won't be easy, but I need you to give me a chance." A swell of confusion tangled with her hurt. The familiarity of his presence stirred memories long buried, but they were also weighted with betrayal and disappointment. Could she trust him again? Would forgiveness open a door she had closed tightly? Jake watched the interaction closely, sensing the tension radiating from Clara. He spoke up, his voice steady and composed. "She has a life now, Mark. This isn't about you. This is Clara's journey." Clara felt the warmth of Jake's words wrapping around her like a protective blanket, a reminder that she had moved forward without looking back. But did that mean she should shut the door on Mark completely? Before she could respond, Mark glanced at the ground, shame washing over him. "I get it. I miss him. You were the closest person to him. I thought if I came back, I could help somehow." "Help?" Clara whispered, disbelief coating her words. "How could you help?" His eyes flickered with determination. "By being here. By finally showing up." As she stood there, a whirlwind of emotions circling around her, Clara faced the deciding moment. What if this was the chance to mend broken pieces? To find solace in shared grief once again? But could she let someone back in? As the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the world cloaked in twilight, Clara felt the weight of a decision pressing against her heart. She had fought so hard to reclaim her life. Could she extend that fight to someone she had once loved? Just then, a rustle came from behind them. Clara turned instinctively, her heart leaping anew. What now? Would this night continue to unravel the life she had begun to reclaim? "Clara," Jake said, looking past her. "There's someone else here." The tension coiled tighter in her chest. What could possibly happen next? Clara's heart dropped at Jake's words. The darkness around them seemed to thicken, each breath becoming more difficult. Her instincts kicked in again, but this time it felt like a warning. Who could possibly be approaching now? This confrontation was already a storm brewing. Another presence could easily become a tornado. Mark shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting past Clara as if he could see who was creeping up behind her. The air crackled with uncertainty. "Clara, please." Mark's voice was low, tinged with a fragility that mirrored her own. "Whatever's happening, we need to face it together." "Together?" Clara snapped, feeling the weight of his words. "What gives you the right to use that word with me after all this time?" Just as she said it, a figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the dim light that lingered from the setting sun. Clara squinted, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The newcomer was a woman, tall and confident, with eyes as fierce as a storm. She wore a cowboy hat, and her denim jacket looked worn but sturdy, giving her an air of strength. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, her voice steady and warm. "But I've been looking for you both." Clara's stomach twisted at the unexpected intrusion. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, her voice shaky. She reluctantly stepped aside, allowing the woman to enter their unease. "I'm Annie," the woman replied, glancing at Mark, then at Clara. "You probably don't know me, but I knew Tom, your husband." Her gaze softened, carrying remnants of a past that Clara wasn't sure she wanted to revisit just yet. "Why are you here?" Clara pressed, her defenses rising again. "What do you want with us?" "More than you think," Annie said softly. "I came to talk about something important that Tom left behind. It's connected to both of you." Clara felt the ground beneath her shift, confusion wrestling her resolve. Left behind? She felt as if the world spun around her, darkness threatening to swallow her whole. She had spent years trying to push forward, forcing the past to stay buried. What could Tom have left that could tie them together in such an unexpected way? That's right, Annie said, stepping closer, her eyes intent. There's an old ranch and a secret. I think it's time for you to discover it. Clara's thoughts raced. Could this be the reason Mark had come back? Was it merely a coincidence that Annie showed up now, with her boots and determination? Do you think this is a joke? Jake interjected, his protective instincts flaring. Or some kind of twisted game? You can't just waltz in here with some cryptic message. Annie held her ground, her expression unwavering. I understand you're skeptical, but Tom wanted both of you to know the truth. It's about healing, closure, and perhaps finding a way to move forward. Clara glanced at Mark, then back at Annie. A whirlwind of emotions made it hard to breathe. Hope and fear battered against her heart like waves crashing against rocks. Could this be a chance to finally find peace? Or was it another distraction from her hard-earned progress? Just as she started to find clarity, Mark spoke up, his voice trembling. What truth? Annie inhaled deeply, ready to unveil whatever secrets that had lingered between them and the past. Clara felt the tension rise again. This moment was pregnant with possibility, a crossroads of grief and hope. Tom left something for you, Annie began, a determined gleam lighting up her eyes, and it could change everything. Clara froze at her words, the air between them thick with uncertainty. What exactly could Tom have meant for them beyond the grave? What was she about to learn that could alter her life once more? With each passing second, the weight of the unknown pressed on her chest. Clara knew she had to make a choice, to lean into the shadows and face whatever lay ahead, but would she be ready for what was coming? The darkened horizon seemed to loom around them, foreshadowing the storm that could either be a new beginning or another painful end. What awaited in those uncharted territories? Clara's heart thudded heavily in her chest, and all she could think was that she stood on the precipice of yet another choice. What truth lay on the other side? Clara's eyes widened, her heart racing as she felt the weight of Annie's revelation settle over them like a heavy fog. The air hummed with unspoken tension, each passing moment a reminder that the past had a way of intertwining with the present. What do you mean, change everything? Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he stepped closer to Annie, the urgency palpable in his gaze. Annie took a moment, visibly gathering her thoughts before she continued. Tom was working on something before he passed. Something he believed could bring closure not just to himself, but to both of you. It's this ranch. Her words hung in the air, echoing with a resonance Clara couldn't quite place. What is it about this ranch? Clara wouldn't let herself be pulled in just yet, her caution was like a lifeline in turbulent waters. What secret is worth dragging us back into all of this? Annie's eyes softened. It's not just a place. It's a part of him, of your story. There are memories, his hopes, his dreams. He wanted you to find it, to understand. He thought it could heal old wounds. Clara felt a sting in her throat, the lumps of sorrow and longing mixing with fear and uncertainty. The very mention of Tom's dreams cast a spotlight on the shadows that had lingered for too long. But how can a place fix what's broken? She asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Mark reached out, his hand brushing against Clara's. It was a small gesture, but it sent a crack of warmth through her. Maybe it's not just about fixing things. Maybe it's about understanding them. Clara glanced at him, searching for reassurance. They'd navigated this sea of grief together before, but this was uncharted territory. She didn't know if they could traverse it again. Annie's expression softened. Tom believed the ranch held answers. He left behind a key, something tangible to help you unlock those answers. It's buried deep within the land he cherished. The suggestion sent Clara reeling. A key? What would it be like to seek out something so personal? Would it lead to healing, or just resurface more pain? Where is this ranch? She demanded. I can take you there, Annie said, her resolve unwavering. But understand, it's not just about what's left behind. It's about rediscovering who you are now. A flash of defiance sparked in Clara's chest. She had worked hard to build a life without Tom, to piece herself together from the broken fragments he left. The thought of ripping off those carefully placed bandages filled her with dread. What if I don't want to go back? Then you don't have to, Mark jumped in, clutching her hands tighter. But what if this could give you the closure you need? His voice was steady, filled with possibility. Clara didn't respond right away. She felt the dual pull of yearning for answers and fearing the unknown. Think about it, Clara. This might be the last chance you have to know what he really wanted for you to be truly free. Annie stepped in closer, her presence grounding amidst the swirling emotions. You don't have to carry the weight of the past forever. It's time to confront it, to let it shape your future instead of haunting your present. Clara looked from Annie to Mark, her heart caught between the past and the future, torn wide open as fear and hope vied for dominance. She could feel the invisible threads connecting her to Tom stretching, possibly fraying, but also inviting her back to wisdom still waiting. Taking a step back, Clara closed her eyes for a fleeting moment, gathering the courage that sat heavy in her chest. This could either be a step forward or a leap into another dark abyss. The silence around them was heavy, thick with possibilities. Finally, she opened her eyes and turned to Annie. Okay, let us go to the ranch. I need to know. Annie's smile was a mix of warmth and understanding. Then let us uncover the truth together. It's time to face the shadows. As Clara took a deep breath, she couldn't shake the feeling that the journey might unravel everything she thought she knew, but perhaps it would also stitch her heart back. Together in ways she never imagined, their road led toward an uncertain horizon, and as they began to walk, the weight of expectation hung in the air like ripe fruit just waiting to be plucked. But would Clara be ready to embrace what awaited? She had already stepped into the unknown. What could be waiting for them at the ranch that would change everything? The drive to the ranch was filled with an uneasy silence, broken only by the soft hum of the engine. Clara found herself looking out the window, watching the familiar yet distant landscape blur by. It was strange to see it again. Memories surfaced like bubbles from a deep lake, rising and popping with intensifying clarity. Mark's grip on her hand was steady, a silent vow of support as they delved deeper into the unknown. Are you okay? He asked, his voice soft, almost hesitant. I will be, she replied, though uncertainty dripped from her words. Clara's heart beat wildly, each thump echoing the rhythm of her thoughts. What did Tom leave behind? Would it be a blessing or another wound to carry? Annie drove with purpose, her gaze unwavering on the road ahead. You'll know when we get there. I promise. A sense of warmth wrapped around Annie's assurance, but Clara couldn't shake the cool shadows weighing on her heart. Minutes felt like hours as they wound further into the countryside. Clara's mind raced between flashes of memories, laughing with Tom, the way the sun kissed the earth, turning everything golden, and the sound of his laughter ringing across the fields. It all felt so distant now, yet painfully close. As they approached the ranch, a wave of emotion crashed over Clara. The sprawling fields they hadn't visited in years lay before them, wild and beautiful. She glimpsed the old barn, its wood weathered and worn but standing tall against the elements, like the memories it contained. Annie parked the truck and they stepped out, Clara's breath hitching as the familiar sense of hay and earth flooded her senses. The air felt thick with untold stories, and Clara felt the ground beneath her shifting, tugging at the past she had left buried. Do you want to take a look inside the barn first? Annie suggested, tilting her head toward it, inviting Clara to take the lead. Clara hesitated, fear and longing battling within her. The decision felt monumental, like choosing to jump into deep waters without knowing how to swim. Yeah, Clara finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Let us do it. They walked toward the barn, the creaking door welcoming them like an old friend. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light filtering through gaps in the wood. The inside was a time capsule, filled with remnants of a life once cherished. Old tools hung from the walls, a faded tractor sat in the corner, and Clara could almost hear the whispers of laughter echoing in the dim light. Here, Mark said, pointing to a small wooden box sitting atop a workbench. It was slightly worn, but the craftsmanship was unmistakable. Clara felt a pull toward it, as if an invisible thread connected her to the box and everything it represented. With trembling hands, she reached out, the rough wood grounding her. "What is this?" she murmured, turning it over gently. It felt heavier than expected, and Clara's heart raced at the thought of what might be inside. Annie stepped closer, her eyes gleaming with understanding. "Tom believed this would help," she explained softly. "Whatever is in there, it's part of your journey." As Clara took a deep breath, anticipation and fear woven tightly together, she unlatched the box. The sound echoed in the quiet barn, a tiny explosion that seemed to resonate through the years. Inside, she found something wrapped in faded cloth. She pulled it out, and in that moment, everything around her faded as she focused on uncovering what awaited inside. Each layer of fabric gave way, revealing a collection of notes, photographs, and a small trinket that glinted in the sunlight. Her heart raced. Every item felt like a piece of a puzzle she never knew she needed. What secrets lay within this treasure trove from Tom? And would it lead her to the closure she sought? One thing was for sure: her journey had only just begun, and with each unfolding moment, Clara sensed that the real truth was still hidden just out of reach. She held on to the hope that perhaps the ranch would help her understand not just Tom, but herself too. As she looked at Mark and Annie, uncertainty flooded her. Would they help her uncover this mystery together? Or would the answers change everything she thought she knew? The air was thick with anticipation. The next moment could break her heart or mend it. "What do you think this means?" Mark asked, peering over her shoulder, hope mixing with trepidation in his eyes. And what lay ahead would reveal just how deep the rabbit hole went. Clara's fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the trinket, a small silver locket that gleamed with an unmistakable warmth despite the years. Twisting it between her fingertips, she felt an urgency swell within her. What secrets lay inside? The anticipation felt like a spark in the quiet barn, electrifying the air around her. Her heart raced as she lifted the locket to her eye level, noticing intricate engravings of flowers and vines winding around its edges. "Tom, what did you want me to find?" she whispered, feeling the weight of the moment settle heavy on her chest. "Open it," Annie encouraged gently, placing a reassuring hand on Clara's shoulder. The warmth radiating from Annie anchored Clara, allowing her to feel a little safer as she moved forward. Mark leaned closer, his breath warm against the back of her neck, and Clara took a deep breath, steadied herself, and flicked the clasp open. With a soft click, the locket parted to reveal two tiny photographs nestled inside. One was of Tom, grinning, eyes sparkling with joy. The other was a picture Clara didn't recognize, a woman with bright eyes and a wide smile that reminded her of summer. Clara's heart constricted. "Who was she? Do you recognize her?" Mark asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper, as if even he feared disturbing the delicate fabric of the moment. Clara shook her head, confusion swirling within her. "No, but she looks happy. Like she's part of something special." The sight of the woman stirred something deep within her, a mix of longing and heartache. "Tom kept a lot of things," Annie said, her eyes glistening as she watched Clara process the unexpected discovery. "Memories, moments. Sometimes it was hard for him to share. Maybe this is him trying to tell you something." A lump formed in Clara's throat as she considered Annie's words. Tom had always been a closed book when it came to certain parts of his life. Was it possible he was keeping more from her? She felt the weight of the moment. This locket might not just hold photos but stories she had never heard. As if sensing the turmoil brewing inside her, Mark stepped in gently. "Whatever this is, Clara, we'll figure it out together. You don't have to face it alone." His voice was steady, a life preserver in a turbulent sea of emotions. Taking another breath, Clara glanced back at the box for more clues. Scattered around the locket among the notes were letters, their envelopes yellowing with age. She picked one up, her hands slightly shaking as she broke the seal. The paper felt fragile, the words a lifeline from the past that pulled at her. "I'll read it," she said, her voice stronger now. Let us see. Mark and Annie moved in closer, each of them holding their breath as she scanned the handwritten letters. The first few lines were filled with warm declarations, words that once carried love between Tom and the mystery woman. Clara's heart sank, and a different kind of ache settled in. It felt wrong to be intruding on something so intimate. "What does it say?" Mark asked, his eyes searching hers for reassurance. "It's personal." But he cared for her, Clara mumbled, the truth weighing heavily on her heart. He kept her memory alive. But why? The questions bubbled up, tugging at her insides. Each sentence revealed a piece of Tom's past she never knew, and the realization felt like a crack in the foundation of the life they built together. "Maybe he was trying to balance it all," Annie offered softly. "Past loves, present reality. It can be messy." Clara didn't know how to respond. The idea that Tom had kept secrets about his life before her felt like a betrayal, yet she also understood he was human, filled with complexities just like everyone else. This journey was about more than just his past. It was about her understanding and healing. As Clara pushed aside the letters, she suddenly noticed more pictures tucked beneath them in the box, all featuring the woman with bright eyes. Each image whispered untold stories, reminders of what could have been. "I need to know who she is," Clara murmured, determination brewing inside. Annie stepped back, her expression shifting to one of support. "Then we'll find out together. This ranch has more answers than you can imagine." Clara felt hope mingle with apprehension as she contemplated the unknown. What if uncovering Tom's past meant tearing apart the world she thought she understood? As she looked at Mark and Annie, resolve solidified her nerves. They would help her navigate this maze, but there was no escaping the truth lurking just beyond their grasp. Was she ready for everything that lay ahead? Just then, a sudden noise outside the barn broke Clara's reverie. It was a horse whinnying, a sound so familiar yet foreign in this new context. "What was that?" Clara asked, her heart quickening again. "I'll check it out," Mark said, stepping toward the door. "You stay here and look through the box," he smiled encouragingly. "We'll uncover everything, I promise." But as Mark opened the barn door, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that more secrets awaited them, not just about Tom, but about the ranch itself. And maybe, just maybe, about her own heart too. "Wait!" She called after him, a sudden realization hitting her. What if this place holds memories not just for Tom but for me too? The silence stretched, heavy with anticipation. Both the past and future were about to collide as they stepped further into the unfolding mystery. What awaited them beyond that door? The door creaked as Mark stepped outside, the echo bringing Clara back to the moment. She clutched the small box tightly, the weight of unwritten stories pressing heavy upon her. "What if I'm not ready for this?" she murmured, glancing at Annie, who stood with an encouraging smile. "You'll find your way," Annie replied, her voice a steady anchor in the turmoil. "Embracing the past can lead to freedom." "I hope so," Clara said softly, a storm of emotions roiling inside her. "But what if all I find is pain?" "Then we'll face it together," Annie said, stepping closer. "This isn't just about Tom's memory. It's about you, about finding your own voice in all of this." As Clara contemplated those words, Mark returned, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "There's someone out here," he said, his brows furrowed with uncertainty. "You need to see this." Clara's heart raced as she followed him out of the barn. Just outside, a woman stood by a chestnut horse, her features strikingly familiar. Clara's breath caught in her throat. The woman was the one from the photographs inside the locket, a radiant smile, vibrant and inviting, lighting up the fading light. "Who are you?" Clara stammered, disbelief dancing in her words. The woman stepped closer, her eyes reflecting a depth of understanding. "I'm Margaret," she said, her voice calm and gentle. "Tom's past it's more intertwined with your journey than you know." "Tom, he knew you?" Clara's stomach tightened. "Why didn't he ever mention you?" Margaret nodded thoughtfully, and the flicker of nostalgia crossed her face. "We had a bond, but that was long before his life with you. I wanted him to move on, to embrace his happiness. But I didn't know he kept my memory alive until now. Clara felt the walls she had built around herself begin to tremble. A labyrinth of secrets started unraveling, and the fear that had once engulfed her began to shift into curiosity. What kind of bond? She pressed, desperate for clarity among the chaos. Margaret sighed, her voice a whisper carried by the wind. He loved deeply, Clara. He had always carried my spirit with him. But he also loved you fiercely. I never meant to come in between, and it pains me to know how my existence affects you now. Every word hung in the air, tangled between confusion and understanding. Clara glanced at Mark, whose presence felt grounding amid the emotional storm. Did you come here to hurt me? She asked, the sorrow bubbling beneath her composure. Absolutely not, Margaret said earnestly, stepping further forward, yet respecting Clara's space. I'm here to help you. The ranch has stories of love, hope, and loss. Secrets we can uncover together. Tom wanted you to find joy again. This is a chance. Clara's heart beat steadily, determination finding roots in the chaos. What should we do next? She asked, feeling the weight of her past shift beneath her. Margaret smiled gently. Together, we'll dig deeper into his legacy. He wanted you to heal, to embrace the love you share with Jake while also honoring the love that was. What about the rumors? The judgment? Clara couldn't hide the tremor in her voice. Margaret shook her head. None of that matters now. You hold the power. This isn't about what people think, but about discovering who you are and what makes you whole. With each of Margaret's words, Clara began to feel the shadows of doubt dispersing. The ranch could indeed serve as a bridge, pulling together the pieces of her fractured heart and leading her back to herself. Turning toward Jake, Clara found his reassurance in the soft crinkle of concern at his brow. He stepped forward, offering a hand, infinite warmth flowing between their palms. We'll walk this path together, he said, unwavering. Margaret's gaze lingered on them, her smile an invitation to continue their journey. Are you ready to uncover what lies beneath the surface? As Clara inhaled deeply, she nodded slowly. Yes, let us find all the pieces. And with that, the three of them stepped back into the barn, uncertainty fading as possibility filled the air. Each story, each secret, would weave together like threads until a rich tapestry of life unveiled itself before them. The dawn of a new understanding blossomed as Clara prepared to embrace healing, love, and the legacy left by those who had come before. In that moment, Clara took hold of her story. Together, they began sorting through the remnants of the past, bit by bit, with hearts open to discovery and a future beckoning them forward. As the sun dipped low, it painted the barn in hues of gold, the air rippling with hope and the promise of healing ahead. Clara felt a lightness within her, as if the burdens were lifting one by one. This was the beginning of not only understanding who Tom was but reclaiming who she was destined to become, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Clara felt free. Now, if you felt the power of this transformation like Clara did, this is your moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now, so you never miss out on these exclusive stories. It's time to leave a like now to help the algorithm grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending, and let us talk about every twist and turn of Clara's journey together. But don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It could inspire someone in need. Your support means everything.